Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swaparantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapatakamalам Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Pando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Banu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhupya Evacha Patitanam Pavanepyo Vaishnavepyo Namo Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashattaya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today we read the chapter 14. The great sage Narada visits the different homes of Lord Krishna. The great sage Narada heard that Lord Krishna had married 16,000 wives after he had killed the demon Narakasura, sometimes called Baumasura. Narada became astonished that Lord Krishna had expanded himself into 16,000 forms and married these wives simultaneously in different palaces. Being inquisitive as to how Krishna was managing his household affairs with so many wives, Narada desired to see these pastimes and so set out to visit Krishna's different homes. When Narada arrived in Dvaraka, he saw that the gardens and parks were full of various flowers of different colors and orchards that were overloaded with a variety of fruits. Beautiful birds were chirping and peacocks were delightfully crowing. There were tanks and ponds full of blue and red lotus flowers, and some of these sites were filled with varieties of lilies. The lakes were full of nice swans and cranes, whose voice resounded everywhere. In the city, there was as many as 900,000 great palaces built of first-class marble with gates and doors made of silver. The posts of these houses and palaces were bedecked with jewels, just as touchstone, sapphires, and emeralds, and the floors gave off beautiful luster. The highways, lanes, streets, crossings, and marketplaces were all beautifully decorated. The whole city was full of residential homes, assembled houses, and temples, all of different architectural beauty. All of this made Dvaraka a glowing city. The big avenues, crossings, lanes, streets, and also the thresholds of every residential house were very clean. On both sides of every path there were bushes, and at regular intervals there were large trees that shaded the avenue so that the sunshine would not bother the passerbys. In this greatly beautiful city of Dwaraka, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Person of Godhead, had many residential quarters. The great kings and princes of the great kings and princes of the world used to visit these palaces just to worship him. The architectural plans were made personally by Vishvakarma, the engineer of the demigods, and in the construction of these palaces, he exhibited all of his talents and ingenuity. These residential quarters numbered more than 16,000, a different queen of Lord Krishna resided in each of them. The great sage Narada entered one of these houses and saw that the pillars were made of coral and the ceilings were bedecked with jewels. The walls, as well as the arches between the pillars, glowed from the decorations of different kinds of sapphires. Throughout the palace, there were many canopies made by Vishvakarma that were decorated with strings of pearls. The chairs and other furniture were made of ivory, bedecked with gold and diamonds, and jeweled lamps dissipated the darkness within the palace. There was so much incense and flavored gum burning that the scented fumes were coming out of the windows. The peacocks sitting on the steps became illusioned by the fumes, mistaking them for clouds, and began dancing jubilantly. There were many maidservants, all of whom were decorated with gold necklaces, bangles, and beautiful saris. There were also many male servants, who were nicely dressed in cloaks and turbans and jeweled earrings. Beautiful as they were, the servants were all engaged in different household duties. Narada saw that the Lord Krishna was sitting with Rukmini Devi, the mistress of that particular palace, who was bearing the rod of chamara whisk. Even though there were many thousands of maidservants who were equally beautiful and qualified, and who were of the same age, Rukmini Devi personally was engaged in fanning Lord Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Person of Godhead, worshipped even by Narada. But still, as soon as he saw Narada enter the palace, Krishna got down immediately from Rukmini's bedstead and stood up before him, and stood up to honor him. Lord Krishna is the teacher of the whole world, and in order to instruct how to respect a saintly person like Narada, Krishna bowed down, touching his helmet to the ground. Not only did Krishna bow down, but also touched the feet of Narada and with folded hands requested him to sit on his chair. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, worshipped by all devotees. He is the most worshipped spiritual master of everyone. The Ganga water which emanates from his feet sanctifies the three worlds. All qualified Brahmanas worship him, and therefore he is called Brahmanya Deva. Brahmanya means one who fully possesses the Brahminical qualifications, which are said to be as follows: truthfulness, self-control, purity, mastery of the senses, simplicity, full knowledge by practical application, and engagement in devotional service. Lord Krishna personally possesses all these qualities, and he is worshipped by persons who themselves possess such qualities. There are thousands and millions of names of Lord Krishna, Vishnu Sahasranama, and all of them are given to him because of his transcendental qualities. Lord Krishna and Dwaraka enjoyed the pastimes of perfect human being. Therefore, he washed the feet of the sage Narada and took the water on his head. Narada did not object, knowing well that Lord did so to teach everyone how to respect saintly persons. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is the original Narayana, an eternal friend of all living entities, thus worshipped the sage Narada according to Vedic regulative principles. Welcoming him with sweet nectarian words, he addressed Narada as a Bhagavan, or one who is self-sufficient, possessing all kinds of knowledge, renunciation, strength, fame, beauty, and similar other opulences. He particularly asked Narada, "What can I do in your service?" Narada replied, "My dear Lord, this kind of behavior by your lordship is not at all astonishing because you are the Supreme Person of Godhead and master of all species of living entities. You are the supreme friend of all living entities, but at the same time, you are the supreme chastiser of the miscreants and the envious. I know that your lordship has descended on this earth for the proper maintenance of the whole universe. Your appearance, therefore, is not forced by any other agency. By your sweet will only, you agree to appear and disappear. It is my great fortune that I have been able to see your lotus feet today. Anyone who becomes attached to your lotus feet is elevated to the supreme position of neutrality and is uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. My lord, you are unlimited. There is no limit to your opulences. Great demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva were always busy placing you within their hearts and meditating upon you. The conditioned souls who have not now been put into the blind well of material existence can get out of this eternal captivity only by accepting your lotus feet. Thus, you are the only shelter of all conditioned souls. My dear Lord, you have very kindly asked what you can do for me. In answer to this, I simply request that I may not forget your lotus feet at any time. I do not care where I may be, but I pray that I may be allowed to constantly remember your lotus feet. The benediction which the sage Narada asked from the Lord is the ideal prayer of all devotees. A pure devotee never asks for any kind of material or spiritual benediction from the Lord, but his only prayer is that he may not forget the lotus feet of the Lord in any condition of life. A pure devotee does not care whether he is put in heaven or hell. He is satisfied anywhere, provided he can constantly remember the lotus feet of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya also taught the same process of prayer in his Sikshastaka, in which he clearly stated that all he wanted was devotional service, birth after birth. A pure devotee does not even want to stop the repetition of birth and death. To a pure devotee, it does not matter whether he has to take birth again in the various species of life. His only ambition is that he may not forget the lotus feet of the Lord in any condition of life. After departing from the palace of Rukmini, Naradaji wanted to see the activities of Lord Krishna's internal potency, Yogamaya. Thus he entered the palace of another queen. There he saw Lord Krishna engaged in playing chess along with his dear wife and Uddhava. The Lord immediately got up from his seat and invited Narada Muni to sit on his personal seat. The Lord again worshipped him with as much paraphernalia for reception as he had in the palace of Rukmini. After worshipping him properly, Lord Krishna acted as if he did not know what had happened in the palace of Rukmini. He therefore told Narada, My dear sage, when your holiness comes here, you are full in yourself. Although we are householders and are always in need, you don't require anyone's help because you are self-satisfied. Under the circumstances, what reception can we offer you, and what can we possibly give you? Yet since your holiness is a Brahmana, it is our duty to offer you something as far as possible. Therefore, I beg your pleasure to order me. What can I do for you? Naradaji knew everything about the pastimes of the Lord, so without any further discussion, he simply left the palace silently, in great astonishment over the Lord activities. He then entered another palace. This time Naradaji saw that Lord Krishna was engaged as an affectionate father petting his small children. From there he entered another palace and saw Lord Krishna preparing to take his bath. In this way, Saint Narada entered each and every one of the 16,000 residential palaces of the queens of Lord Krishna, and in each of them he found Krishna engaged in different ways. In one palace, in one place, he found Krishna engaged in offering oblations to the sacrificial fire and performing the ritualistic ceremonies of the Vedas as enjoined for householders. In other palace, Krishna was found performing the Panchayagna sacrifice, which is compulsory for a householder. This yagna is also known as Panchashuna. Knowingly or unknowingly, everyone, especially the householders, is committing 5 kinds of sinful activities. When we receive water from water pitcher, we kill many germs that are in it. Similarly, when we use grinding machine or take foodstuff, we kill many germs. When sweeping a floor or igniting fire, we kill many germs, and when we walk on the street, we kill many ants and other insects. Consciously or unconsciously, in all our different activities, we are killing. Therefore, it is incumbent incumbent upon every householder to perform the Panchashuna sacrifice to rid himself of the reactions to these sinful activities. In one palace, Lord Krishna was found engaged in feeding brahmanas after performing ritualistic yagnas. In another palace, Narada found Krishna engaged in silently chanting the Gayatri mantra. And in a third, he found him practicing fighting with a sword and shield. In some palaces, Lord Krishna was found riding on horse or elephants or chariots and wandering hither and thither. Elsewhere, he was found laying down on his bedstead taking rest, and somewhere else he was found sitting in his chair, being praised by the prayers of his different devotees. In some of the palaces, he was found consulting with ministers like Uddhava and others on important matters of business. In one palace, he was found surrounded by many younger society girls, enjoying in a swimming pool. In another palace, he was found engaged in giving well-decorated cows in charity to the Brahmanas. And in another palace, he was found hearing the narrations of the Puranas or histories, such as the Mahabharata, which are supplementary literatures for disseminating Vedic knowledge to common people by narrating important instances in the history of the universe. Somewhere Lord Krishna was found enjoying the company of particular wife by exchanging joking words with her. Somewhere else he was found engaged along with his wife in religious ritualistic functions. Since it is necessary for householders to increase their financial assets for various expenditures, Krishna was found somewhere engaged in matters of economic development. Somewhere else he was found enjoying family life according to the regulative principles of the Shastras. In one palace, he was found sitting in meditation as if he were concentrating his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond these material universes. Meditation, as recommended in authorized scriptures, is meant for concentrating one's mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Lord Krishna is himself the original Vishnu, but because he played the part of a human being, he taught us definitely by his personal behavior what is meant by meditation. Somewhere Lord Krishna was found satisfying elderly superiors by supplying them things with which they needed. Somewhere else Naradaji found that Lord Krishna was engaged in discussing topics of fighting, and somewhere else in making peace with enemies. Somewhere Lord Krishna was found discussing the ultimate auspicious activity for the entire human society with his elder brother Lord Balaram. Narada saw Lord Krishna engaged in getting his sons and daughters married with suitable brides and bridegrooms. In due course of time, and the marriage ceremonies were being performed with great pomp. In one palace he was found bidding farewell to his daughters, and in another he was found receiving a daughter-in-law. People throughout the whole city were astonished to see such pomp and ceremonies. Somewhere the Lord was seen engaged Somewhere the Lord was seen engaged in performing different types of sacrifices to satisfy the demigods, who are only his qualitative expansions. Somewhere he was seen engaged in public welfare activities, establishing deep wells for water supply, rest houses and gardens for unknown guests, and great monasteries and temples for saintly persons. These are some of the duties enjoined in the Vedas for householders for fulfillment of their material desires. Somewhere Krishna was found as Kshatriya king, engaged in hunting animals in the forest and riding on very beautiful Sindhi horses. According to Vedic regulations, the Kshatriyas were allowed to kill prescribed animals on certain occasions, either to maintain peace in the forest or to offer the animals in the sacrificial fire. Kshatriyas are allowed to practice this killing art because they have to kill their enemies mercilessly to maintain peace in society. In one situation, the great sage Narada saw Lord Krishna, the supreme person of Godhead and master of mystic powers. In one situation, the great sage Narada saw Lord Krishna, the Supreme Person of Godhead and master of mystic powers, acting as a spy by changing his usual dress in order to understand the motives of different citizens in the city and within the palaces. Saint Narada saw all these activities of the Lord, who is the super soul of all living entities, but who played the role of an ordinary human being in order to manifest the activities of his internal potency. He was smiling within himself and began to address the Lord as follows: My dear Lord of all mystic powers, object of the meditation of great mystics, the extent of your mystic power is certainly inconceivable, even to mystics like Brahma and Lord Shiva. But by your mercy, because of my being always engaged in the transcendental loving service of your lotus feet, your lordship has very kindly revealed to me the actions of your internal potency. My dear Lord, you are worshipable by all, and demigods and predominating deities of all 14 planetary systems are completely aware of your transcendental fame. Now please give me your blessings so that I may be able to travel all over the universe, singing the glories of your transcendental activities. The Supreme Person of Godhead, Lord Krishna, replied to Narada as follows: My dear Narada, O sage of O sage among the demigods, you know that I am the supreme instructor and a perfect follower of all religious principles, as well as the supreme enforcer of such principles. I am therefore personally executing such religious principles in order to teach and the whole world how to act. In order to teach the whole world how to act. My dear son, it is my desire that you do not be bewildered by such a demonstration of my internal energy. The Supreme Person of Godhead was engaged in his so-called household affairs in order to teach people how one can sanctify one's household life, although he may be attached to the imprisonment of material existence. Actually, one is obliged to continue the term of material existence because of household life. But the Lord, being very kind upon householders, demonstrated the path of sanctifying ordinary household life. Because Krishna is the center of all activities, a Krishna conscious householder's life is transcendental to Vedic injunctions, and is automatically sanctified. Thus Narada saw one single Krishna living in 16,000 palaces by his plenary expansions. Due to his inconceivable energy, he was visible in each and every individual queen's palace. Lord Krishna has unlimited power, and Narada's astonishment was boundless upon observing again and again the demonstrations of Lord Krishna's internal energy. Lord Krishna behaved by his personal example as if he were very much attached to the four principles of civilized life, namely religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation. These four principles of material existence are necessary for the spiritual advancement of human society, and although Lord Krishna had no need to do so, he exhibited his household activities so that people might follow his footsteps for their own interest. Lord Krishna satisfied the sage Narada in every way. Narada was very much pleased by seeing the Lord's activities in Dvaraka, and thus he departed. In narrating the activities of Lord Krishna in Dvaraka, Shukadeva Goswami explained to King Parikshit how Lord Krishna, the Supreme Person of Godhead, descends on this material universe by the agency of his internal potency, and personally exhibits the principles which, if followed, can lead one to achieve the ultimate goal of life. All the queens in the Dvaraka, more than 16,000 in number, engaged their feminine, attractive features in the transcendental service of the Lord by smiling and serving, and the Lord was pleased to behave with them exactly as perfect husband enjoying household life. One should know definitely that such pastimes cannot be performed by anyone but Lord Krishna, Lord Sri Krishna. Lord Sri Krishna is the original cause of the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the whole cosmic manifestation. Anyone who attentively hears the narrations of the Lord's pastimes in Dvaraka or supports a preacher of the Krishna consciousness movement will certainly find it very easy to traverse the path of liberation and taste the nectar of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and thus he will be engaged in his devotional service. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the second volume, 14th chapter of Krishna, the great sage Narada visits the different homes of Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna. चेतो दर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादावाग्निर्वापनं श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणं विद्यावादुजीवनम् आनन्दं बुधिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतस्वादनं सर्वात्मा स्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनं नाम्नामकारि बहुधा निज सर्वशक्तिः तत्रार्पितानि अमिता स्मरणेन काला एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि दुर्दैवामितिर्षमिहा जनीननुरगा त्रिनादपि सुनीचेन तरोरपि सहिष्णुना मानीनामानदेन कीर्तनीया सदा हरि न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगतीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतात् भक्तिरहैतुकी त्वयि अयि नन्दतनुजा किङ्करं पतितं मां विषमे भवाम्बुधौ कृपया तव पादपङ्कजा स्थितधूलिसदृशं विचिन्तय नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदा हृदया गिरा पुलकर्निचितं वपुः कदा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यति युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्रविर्शायितं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्द विरहेण मे आश्लिष्य वा पादरतं विनष्टु मामदर्शनं मर्महतं करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विधातु लम्पतो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव नापरः. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, some considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Sri Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Hare Krishna, Sri Siksastakam ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. पंचतत्व की जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य महाप्रभु की जय प्रभु नित्यानंद की जय जगत गुरु श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल.